Today's tutorial comes from Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which was released last week. We're going to be adding a solar eclipse into the sky of a free stock photo. You can find that in the description. Here we are in HitFilm in a new composite shot. I've got my base footage in the timeline. The first thing we'll do is create the sun. Go into the New Layer menu and make a new plane. Select the layer and come up to the Ellipse Mask tool. Click and drag while holding both the Shift and Alt keys to draw a perfect circle that originates from the center. In the Controls panel, search for Feather and set it to something slight, like 5 pixels. Now add the Fill Color effect. I'll set the color to a pale orange. Right-click the layer itself and set the blend to Screen. The next step is to make it glow, so we'll drop that effect onto the sun layer. Lower the threshold so that the whole sun is affected, and increase the intensity and radius. Down in the per channel intensity controls, increase the red to 2 and lower the blue slightly to get the color looking more like the actual sun. Right-click the glow effect and duplicate it. Lower the threshold to 0 and increase the radius of this one to the maximum. Now do it one more time. The reason I use multiple glow effects is because it makes the fall-off of light much more realistic than trying to do it all in one effect. Let's add an auto volumetrics effect. Click and drag the center point here to move the light rays so that they're pointing in the direction you want for your scene. In the Controls panel, drop down the Render Colorize settings and pick a color from your sky. Increase the amount until the rays blend in better. Now we'll create the moon. Bring in the plane from the Media panel and copy the mask from the sun layer. Paste it onto the moon's mask properties. Drop on a new radial gradient effect. I'll drag in the viewer to place the center point near the sun. Drop down the outer radius controls and change the color. I chose to pick from the purple mountains. Increase the opacity of the outer radius to 1. And adjust the actual radius slider to make the transition between colors larger. To create the shadow for the moon, I'll once again drop on the Auto Volumetrics effect. In the controls, set the blend to multiply. Use the control point to place it in the correct spot, and increase the exposure to darken the shadow. If the edge of the moon is too sharp, you can either increase the feather of the mask itself or drop on an angle blur. I'll also throw on a light wrap effect. Set the source layer to the background image and change the blend to Add or Screen. Adjust the radius and opacity to your liking. To hide the edge of the moon that's facing the sun, I'll drag in the plane from the Media panel and add the light flares effect. In the Controls panel, switch the flare type to Anamorphic Enterprise. Right-click the layer and set the blend to Screen. Now position the flare to the correct spot. In the Global settings, spin the hue shift around until the color matches. I can use a radial blur effect to soften the flare and make it look less CG. Set it to something low, like 3 or 4. The flare that I chose has some artifacts I don't want for this scene, so I'll go into the Other Elements section and turn the brightness to 0. If you'd like to spend more time on the light flare that comes from the sun, check out this previous tutorial on designing your own custom lens flares. Because the original picture that we used did not have the sun, there's no light trail on the water. There's a simple way to add that in. We're going to use our plane again. Drag it down from the media panel and drop the fill color effect onto it. We're going to temporarily hide this layer by clicking the eye. And I'll use the color picker to select an orange from my scene. Turn the layer back on and set the blend to add. Come up and select the Ellipse Mask tool and draw a shape where the sun should be hitting the water. In the controls, search for feather and increase that to soften the edge. The light is currently bleeding onto the mountains. In some cases, that may be what you want, but for now I'll restrict it to just the water. Switch over to the rectangular mask tool and draw your shape along the water line. Set the blend for this mask to subtract and feather it as well. To match the perspective of the shot better, come up to the freehand mask tool and select the first oval mask. Click each side point and adjust the handles to be more of a bell shape, one that gets wider as it gets closer to the camera. Next up, I'll show you how to add light rays coming from behind the sun. For this step, turn off the other layers so that they don't get in the way. I'll drag in my plane again and name it Rays. Copy the mask from the sun onto this layer. Drop on the fractal noise effect. Activate keyframes for the seed property. Skip to the end of the timeline and change the number. This will make the light rays move throughout the shot. Come down to the transform properties and set that low, like 15. Open the subsettings and increase the influence to make the noise more grainy. In the Color 2 settings, I'll lower the opacity. This affects the brightness of the light rays themselves. Increase the exposure until it becomes lighter with black specks. Now add the Auto Volumetrics effect. Drag the center point to match the position of the sun. Come down and set the blend to none. This will leave just the rays visible. Right-click the layer itself and set the blend to add or screen. Now increase the exposure to your liking. You can colorize the rays to match your scene in the bottom dropdown. Select a color from your footage and increase the amount. The final color grade can do a lot for your effect, and depends on your vision for the scene. Here's a look at some of the effects I used. First, to make it look less like a picture, I added a small radial blur to soften the edges of the frame. Then, similar to when we were creating the sun, I stacked a few glow effects to even out the light. A curves effect brought back some of the contrast that was lost after I added all those light effects. The bleach bypass effect got me closer to the color that I wanted for this scene, and lens dirt made it look more realistic.
Check out the card on screen for a tutorial on building your own custom lens flares, which you can use in your solar eclipse videos. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.